Hey, good morning. I'd like to share with you something that I shared with my children in our car last night on the way home. Digging around on the internet for some articles, I ran across this one yesterday. Of course, this is from January of 2014, but the title was "Unrestrained 24-Year-Old Killed in Single Vehicle Crash." And in the article it said that speed is considered to be a factor in the crash. And of course my children believed that I was talking about the need to wear seat belts, and that was a good application of it. But I wanted to go somewhere different and talk about this idea of restraint. I thought it was very interesting that they used the word unrestrained. Of course, talking about that seat belt that they did not have at the time of the crash. Well, why do we have restraints in our lives? And so I apply this to rules and restraints. Some people really think restraints hold them back. They think they're stifling and suffocating, and they just want to get out from underneath the restraints of their parents. When they leave home, they're just so excited that they can do their own thing and buy tubs of ice cream and just eat to their heart's content whatever they want, and they can do whatever they want. They can play video games all day long. They can go out with whoever they want, spend time with their friends. They want to cast off restraint. And unfortunately, many adults live life in just the same way. And in the United States of America, we have this great love of freedom. But freedom comes at a cost. And freedom does not mean that we are free to just do whatever we want without consequence. Any person is free to do what he wants, but there will be consequences to that. So why rules and why restraints? Are they not to make sure that we don't get hurt? Many of them are guidelines to make sure we don't hurt ourselves and to make sure we don't hurt others. That's many times that's the value of restraint. I want to share with you a passage from 1 Timothy chapter 1 starting in verse 8. Listen to this as it talks about the law, and of course this is talking about the law of God, but it applies to law in general, I think. But we know, Paul writes, that the law is good if one uses it lawfully, knowing this, that the law is not made for a righteous person. Well, who then is the law made for? It's made for the lawless and insubordinate, for the ungodly and for sinners, for the unholy and profane, for murderers of fathers and murderers of mothers, for manslayers, for fornicators, for sodomites, for kidnappers, for liars, for perjurers, and if there is any other thing that is contrary to sound doctrine, sound teaching, according to the glorious gospel of the blessed God, which was committed to my trust, he finishes. So why then do we have law? It's for people who do not already control themselves, who do not restrain themselves. That's what the law is for. And don't be too quick to put yourself into that righteous person category up there and say that, well, I'm the righteous person, I don't need law. Everyone else out there needs law. Be very careful with your self-introspection there. I believe if you really thought long and hard, you're going to find yourself somewhere in there. Your desires, you have fleshly desires that pull you in wrong directions, and sometimes you choose the wrong directions. And law, by God's grace, has been given to us to restrain us when our fleshly desires go in the wrong directions, and all of us do. May I share with you very quickly to finish up 4 quick proverbs. Proverbs chapter 10 and verse 19 says, "In the multitude of words sin is not lacking, but he who restrains his lips is wise." What we need to do is come to an ability to restrain ourselves. And if we can restrain our mouths, restrain our lips, we can actually restrain our whole bodies. James chapter 3 says. You might want to check that out. Proverbs 11:22 says, "As a ring of gold in a swine's snout, so is a lovely woman who lacks discretion," or lacks taste, perhaps. There is something very ugly in a female who uses foul language, or who is flamboyant and just boisterous and showing off. There's something that's just dirty about that and wrong. And of course it's also wrong for men, but he's just pointing out here that we see it's like putting an adornment on a pig's nose. It's gross. We don't want to see that. Women want to restrain themselves. That's a beautiful thing. Men as well. Proverbs 14 verse 29 says, "He who is slow to wrath has great understanding, but he who is impulsive exalts folly." Now, this impulsive nature is in many of us, and we are so quick to react in wrong ways, often with our mouths or with our fists, with our actions. We are quick to defend ourselves when we feel like we've been slighted or wronged. We're impulsive in so many cases. And this proverb is telling us we need to restrain ourselves when we feel those impulses coming on. And finally, in Proverbs 29 verse 18, it says, "Where there is no revelation, the people cast off restraint. But happy is he who keeps the law." Where there is no revelation, where there is no prophetic vision, some of your Bibles may say, where there is no law that we have, that we've internalized from God, we just do our own thing. We are our own king, our own master, our own God. When we cast off restraint, it's a sorry thing to behold. And you have people like the Mussolinis and the Hitlers of the world, when you have men who cast off restraint and they say, "I am not going to follow the restraints that God has given. I'm going to follow my own ways." Let us have self-restraint and build this in, and the only way we can, holding on to God's revelation. God bless you in your walk.